I'm delighted now to welcome our guest, Aleksandra Walkiewicz. She's a lawyer, and we're going to talk about certain political issues in Poland at the moment. Aleksandra, welcome to TVP World, and thank you for taking the time to join us.
Good evening. I'm very glad to be here.
Happy to have you.
So, Mariusz Kamiński and Maciej Wąsik were charged today by prosecutors for participating in parliamentary activities despite being banned from holding public office. Now, could you please explain us what does it mean in normal, not in legal terms, and how did it all happen?
It's not so easy to explain omitting the legal terms, because it's a very complicated situation we are in and we are witnessing, because the history has its start a long time ago. But I will concentrate on the facts that happened December 2023, so lately. So in 20th of December of 2023, Mr. Kamiński and Mr. Wąsik were sentenced. And the judgment is final. This day it became final. They were, by this judgment of the court, they were sentenced to 2 years of imprisonment for executing their power in the way that they shouldn't been, and also,
could you be more precise?
Yes, that they were sentenced and they were convicted of using their powers being the officials of CBA of Poland, but they have a lot of power and they use it in the wrong way.
Somehow similar to FBI, right?
Something like FBI, but it is Polish services, and they were very powerful men in this time, and they used, committed forgery of the documents to press charges against someone, and it was the breach of the law in this time. But what is the most important? 20th of December, the judge also imposed a ban from taking the public officials and exercising public rights. And public right, one of them is to be a member of the parliament and to exercise the rights to vote, to take part of the session of Sejm. And this is what happened. After 20th of December, they, in this day, their mandate of the member of parliament expired. They lost the mandate. And after losing of that, they were not allowed to appear in Sejm and to vote, because they lost the mandate and they couldn't exercise those powers. And like exercising something what is against the court sentence is a crime by Polish legal penal code. And this penal code, this is the Article 244, says that it is the crime punishable up to 5 years. Of course, after 20th of December, the President of Poland used his prerogative and pardoned them of this crime, but when they lose the mandate, after this right of pardon, they don't give it.
They were pardoned of which crime?
Of the first one.
Of the first one.
Right,
of the first one, because they are not sentenced. Only today, the prosecutor pressed charges, brought charges against them. But the proceedings are going to be continued. But they were pardoned from the previous crime, the first crime they committed. And it ends up that they do not have to go to the jail.
Yeah.
And they don't have to. They are not. They are sentenced, but they don't have to go to the jail
Because they were pardoned.
because they were pardoned, but by pardoning them, they don't recover, they don't
gain back the
gain
rights.
back the mandate of the parliament.
Because they have been convicted, and that is irreversible. Is that what you're saying? So yes, they've been pardoned, so they don't have to go to jail, but they've still been convicted.
Exactly,
and they
still lost their mandate.
Their mandate, okay. Now, of course, Mr. Kamiński says that both that and the latest charge of wrongful voting, if whatever the legal term for that is, are politically motivated. What do you say to that?
I think this is the person who is on the opposition of the party that is in power now, and it is natural to give argumentation like that. But of course, I cannot say who is wrong or right, because the court will decide about that during these proceedings that were launched today. But as a lawyer, I can see the articles, I can understand the law, and what happened, it's very complicated, and in my feelings, is wrong. And that's why I cannot imagine that being an oppositional party, they admit wrong now after such a long term of being the opposition and having different mind. I don't believe that person can change mind in one day.
Right.
So it is natural. They have a right to defense. They have right to present their argumentation, and this is what happened today.
Right.
So it's
but
natural.
is there a precedent for this kind of action? Because basically, Mr. Kamiński was saying, well, this has never happened before. But has it happened before? I mean, is there some reason for his believing that it's politically motivated?
In fact, this kind of situation never happened before in Poland. It's first time, as I remember. But this crime they were charged for today, it's a common crime. And it's a crime not politically, but for example, imagine that somebody is driving a car after consuming alcohol. During these proceedings, also the court gave the ban from driving a car. And when somebody, during having this ban in the sentence, final sentence of the court, is driving, is also committing the same crime. This is the crime of doing something that is forbidden by the sentence and by the final judgment of the court.
Right.
So in the terms of law, it's nothing new, but these circumstances, what is going on in the parliament, it happens for the first time.
Right, so you said they lost their mandate, but both gentlemen today stated that they cannot be charged because they are protected by parliamentary immunity. So what's going on?
Yes, but the immunity is connected to the mandate. If somebody loses his mandate in the parliament, at the same time, it loses the immunity. So this is the decision that during these proceedings that I'm sure will end up in the court of the first instance, the second instance, and also the Supreme Court, because I believe this case will end up in Supreme Court in the future because it lasts some time.
Right.
The court is to decide when was the time that they lost the mandate and if they lost the mandate. But all the articles, all the laws that I believe and I understand, it happened this day, 20 December of 2023, when the judgment became final.
Understood.
In this moment, in this judgment, the court said, you cannot exercise your public rights. You cannot be member of the parliament. So in this moment, they lost their mandate and they lost their immunity. So their argumentation is that all these proceedings and all this what happened today was not valid because the immunity still exists. But the prosecutor says it doesn't.
Right. Well, in that case, it sounds fairly clear-cut to me in terms of as a point of law. That immunity and mandate were removed immediately on conviction, right? So why do you believe it will still go to the Supreme Court? Because they will only decide on a point of law. Because
always one party is not happy about the judgment. So this is the law. This is the right of both parties to appeal and to file the motion to Supreme Court. And I'm sure that if one party in this case will lose, they want to go up and up to the second instance and to Supreme Court. This is some kind of case. There is the limit in Supreme Court. This is the
no, but before the Supreme Court.
There are still European courts, right?
Yeah, sure. But I'm talking about the instances in Poland.
Yeah, absolutely.
But isn't there a limit as to which cases are allowed into the Supreme Court? Just very quickly now, we only have a few seconds. Otherwise, the Supreme Court would be full of appeals, would it not?
Yeah, it is. There is a limit because if the sentence of the second instance in penal cases, it's not imprisonment directly, but it's not suspended. If the penalty is suspended, there is no right for the convicted person to go to the Supreme Court. But if it is convicted on the imprisonment, for example, of 2 years with no suspension, they don't have. They have right to appeal to Supreme Court.
Aleksandra Walkiewicz, lawyer, thank you for explaining it to us. I guess I understand it now.
Well, I'm certainly still thinking about it.
I'm guessing.
Maybe tomorrow morning it'll all click for me. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.